inalienable rights as gifts from the Creator, and therefore those rights may not be abrogated, adjudicated, negotiated, diminished, or extinguished in any way by any government, entity, or person, this being the foundation of sovereignty. And whereas the International Indigenous Tribe, with both Indigenous and affiliate tribal members around the world, wish to enter into a treaty of peace, friendship, and fair trade with the Royal Court of Breffni, Ireland's ancient Middle Kingdom. And whereas ITT and RCB share historic and cultural similarities, including a strong belief in equity, respect for creation, and a deep connection to the land, as well as the commonly held belief in a precious metal legal tender medium of exchange. Therefore, they enter into this agreement. I'd like to just read one other provision here. This is in Article 4. Article 4 states, each party hereby pledges to conduct their respective and joint affairs in the utmost good faith and to employ to the fullest extent possible 24-karat gold legal tender denominated in increments of 1/1000th of a troy ounce as the preferred medium of exchange within and between, but not limited to, their peoples, institutions, and commercial ventures. So once executed, this treaty will actually be lodged with at The Hague, where all international treaties are filed. And so we have here the signatures of Lord Martin and Lady Ingrid. And they executed this in advance of this meeting. And we have Chief Sunhawk here with Gary Anderson and Ron Allen, who are going to execute on behalf of the International Indigenous Tribe. And I'd like to give the Chief and Lord Martin an opportunity to speak to us. I'm hoping that technologically that'll be possible. So let me go ahead and see if Lord Martin has a few words to say. And I'll just put the microphone up here and see if we can hear him. So, we've had the headphones in, so he probably hasn't heard a thing I've said this whole time. Okay, Lord Martin, can you hear me? Okay, now there is an issue. Okay. Yes, and I think that we switched this. Oh yeah, jump back to that. So we want to have our output be internal speakers. Okay. Okay. Lord Martin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay, so can you hear me? Okay. Okay, so we can hear you, and we would appreciate a few comments regarding this treaty signing and your thoughts on this case.
Thank you all for being here today. This is a really huge event historically for us. Our kingdom goes back thousands of years. We are probably a similar sort of age to the age of the indigenous Americans that are led by Chief Sunhawk, which is a very, very long time. And we have both suffered at the hands of invaders. We don't need to go into any more details. We all know what I'm talking about. But we have suffered very badly in such a manner. We are coming together now as two separate and independent nations, cooperating in every way possible to try and help indigenous peoples of the world to come to some kind of sense of power for themselves, because this is really about. Now, our kingdom was crushed, absolutely brutally crushed at the beginning of the 17th century. My name was declared a capital offence, which meant anybody could just shoot us or hang us or do what they like to us at any time with no repercussions. And this happened a lot, but we survived. Somehow the family has kept going. We had to live in it, more or less in hiding for a long time. But now we're back, and we are going to let the world know that we are back. And we stand for equity. We stand to play for everybody. And the use of gold and silver as currency is a very good example of the fairness of this system. So, first of all, I want to thank Larry for the work he's doing with the gold and silver. And also, I want to thank Chief Sunhawk for approaching us. He approached us through the Royal Court of Breffni website, Facebook page, and we started interacting. And our people and his people, we got together in many, many conference calls, and we've been negotiating backwards and forwards, and we've gone to a great deal of trouble to make sure that the wording of this treaty is such that we maintain who we are, what we are, where we've come from, and what everything is really about, the important values that we share together. And so,
Yes, let me just ask a question. You spoke about the historic use of gold and silver. Could you just give us a few words about the O'Reilly coin and kind of the history of that? And I think that would be very interesting to our audience here.
It doesn't hold true for us anymore, but the term the life of Riley was used to describe the wealth of the family, because the coin of the realm was called Riley after us, and it was a silver coin, and silver by weight was the standard coin of the realm. Legal proceedings were covered by set weight by ounce of silver. Fines were set by courts in the same manner, and compensation was paid in the same way. So it's just been there forever, and for some reason, the people on the wrong side of the of the Irish Sea don't seem to like the idea of having a solid, reliable, fair for everybody system. I'm not going to try to explain that because nobody else can, so I'm sure I can't either. But that's how they think. And so we are not going to let them get away with that. We are reviving what our family had all those years ago. So thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your insight there. We're getting a huge. Okay, let's ask the chief to come up here, and maybe you could speak kind of from here so you can see Prince Martin and Lady Ingrid.
Well, it's wonderful to be here today. Like Prince Martin said, we have been doing a lot of work on getting this document set so that the wordage keeps our sovereignty. Sovereignty is the most important thing on this planet. Without it, people walk on you. When they give you the sovereignty, they try to take it away from you. All right? We never had to have it given to us. We've always had the sovereignty. But they still try to negotiate it away from us in different ways. You want fire department on your land? Release the sovereignty. You want to do banking? Release the sovereignty. What we're doing here today, and working all of this together, is about maintaining our sovereignty. Gold, silver, precious metals, that's sovereignty. And that's what we're here for. And as we go through this process, before I started it, I sat down and did tobacco ceremony, which is part of my customs. And through that ceremony, we always work with the eagle. The eagle is the carrier of messages to the Great Spirit. The eagle has been seen by airliners flying at 32,000 feet, equal with the planes on their own power. They're the ones that are closest to the Great Spirit. Therefore, they carry the messages. And while I was doing my ceremonies, I very clearly heard that what we're doing here is of the highest good for all concerned. It is what we were meant to do. And with that, I would like to say from the Cherokee language, the word is wago. Wago is our way of saying thank you. It has several meanings, but in this case, it's thank you for being here today. And we look forward to further communications with each of y'all that want to. Our tribe is open to everybody. Doesn't matter whether you're DNA by native or not. We've got an affiliate side and a native side, and we're all equal. So we look forward to talking with y'all at some point here in the future. Y'all have yourselves a wonderful day, and we're going to get on with the song.
So we're going to go ahead with the signing now, and I'm going to turn this around so that Lord Martin and Lady Ingrid can see and witness what's going on here. So let's see. Yeah, if I could have some. There we go. Just set you right here. Can you?
I see that document somewhere.
Well, I'm glad they got here on time.
Yeah, we can make us straight at first. You give them enough money, they'll do anything.
I was just reminded that on this treaty, we do have space for additional witness signatures. So anyone who would like to, after the meeting, actually be a witness on these that will be filed with The Hague, you're welcome to come up and put your signature on. Yeah, okay, we get people who want to do it right now. So let's do it after the meeting. But okay, but Mark is first in line. Okay? Okay, so this is wonderful. So I think we are to the point where we're going to formally start our meeting. So let's see, where's our chairman? Oh, there he is. Okay. So just finishing up here, and then we will bid adieu to our guests from overseas. But you may want to stay on just for the formal opening of the meeting, because I think you're going to enjoy that too. So just one moment. All right, are we complete? Okay, that's great. Now, by the UPMA bylaws, one of our requirements is, and one of our privileges, is that we begin every meeting, and with an invocation. And so this is our chairman of the board, Abe, so I'm going to turn over the time to him, and he'll take it from here.
Okay, so we are going to open with a word of prayer as our bylaws state. And I've just been informed that the chief here has been willing to give us the opening prayer, so we're happy to do that. So,
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, he's How are you doing there? All right, good, good. So, like I said, we work with the Eagle for its carrying the messages of the Great Spirit. We have two different ways that we work with them. We work with them either through the Eagle feathers themselves, or through ceremony, we receive an eagle bone whistle. And the eagle bone whistle is a way, you might say it's a way of connecting with the eagle. So I'm going to blow it a couple of times here to establish my connection with the eagle before we go into prayer. And as we ask the eagle to carry our prayers to the Great Spirit so that he may know our intentions. Everybody has their own way of talking to the Creator. And if our ways do not fit with yours, please follow your own. As we speak to the Great Spirit, we ask that all of our ancestors, those that have come before us, the two-leggeds, the four-leggeds, the creepy crawlies, the birds, we ask that they all join us. And as we become one, because there is no separation between us, feel the Great Spirit, God, Creator, whatever word you choose to use, feel that in your heart. Connect to all of those around you with your heart. Become one as a group and allow this energy in this room to expand out through all of Utah and all of the other states, countries, nations throughout the world. Allow this energy that we're creating here today to connect us all in oneness. And as you feel that oneness come in through tones, allow yourself to spread even further. Everybody you meet, connect with their hearts. Listen from your heart. Speak from your heart. And watch the world change. Will.
and I'll say amen to that. So, okay, so thank you. And do you want to say thank you so much for coming and participating in this, historical event? Oh, okay, I am not even in the shot. So thank you so much for Lord Martin and being able to, and Lady Ingrid for being able to participate with us today. And we hope to be doing lots of karmas with you from across the pond. So thank you so much. Oh, and here's one more thing Larry wants to say.
Just stay here, stay here. So I just want to introduce Abe Day to you. He is the designer of the Breffney note. So this is the man right here. So that was another kind of Goldback that was put together for Ireland. So just wanted to. Yeah, so Abe Day here is the designer of the Breffney note, the IQuint Breffney note that we have for Ireland. Okay, so we'll all say goodbye. I'll turn it around. Everybody can wave goodbye. Oh, there we go. That's it.
If this doesn't work, then I'm going to not attempt it. But if this does work, this is going to be great. I want to start the meeting just with a kind of a review of the past, what got us here, and then go into our announcements. And so I'll give this one shot. So I'm gonna have to give you just a second because I have to hook up a PC to what was hooked up to a Mac. So some cross compatibility things I'm sure it's gonna get me, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so we got the first connection. That's great. Okay, so now see if I can hook the audio to this. And if so, we'll be able to go forward. But you know what? I just remembered we got a pretty good way to do the audio from the last thing, so maybe we'll just do it that way. Just gonna do a hack. So let's see here. Oh boy, look at that. Didn't like that, did it? There we go. The volume's up. And I need to figure out where the speaker is so I can put the speaker on the speaker. All right, I think we're almost there. So let's just go here. So these were the first animated commercials that UPMA created a while ago. So let's just.
Instead of raising taxes to cover the shortfall, which would be very unpopular, they simply print more money. Now, since the buying power of us have never known a time when there wasn't any inflation, we're completely conditioned to accept that the same asset, whether it be a house, a car, or food, will inevitably cost more in the future than it does today. But why is that? Inflation is created by governments that spend more than they take in. Instead of raising taxes to cover the shortfall, which would be very unpopular, they simply print more money. Now, since the buying power of our money is based on how much there is in circulation, increasing the money supply dilutes its buying power, thus causing a steady rise in prices. And because our wages aren't necessarily increasing at the same rate as inflation, and because this rate isn't accounted for in any of our profits on investments, we end up paying a hidden inflation tax. But is this reality inescapable? Isn't there some way to secure our wealth from this hidden tax, this ever-creeping reduction in purchasing power? Fortunately, the answer is yes. While our currency has lost more than 96% of its purchasing power since the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913, gold and silver have retained most, if not all, of their buying power. What this means in practical terms is that the same amount of silver or gold required to buy a car or house in 1950 would still buy an equivalent car or house today. That's great, but how does that help me? Is there some way that I can use gold and silver to pay for things? Again, the answer is yes. In 2011, the state of Utah passed the Utah Legal Tender Act. This made Utah the first state in the U.S. to return gold and silver back to their proper status as money. In response to this landmark legislation, and to help people take advantage of the benefits of real money, the United Precious Metals Association, or UPMA, was born. things every day. Right now, you can buy food, pay your mortgage, shop online, and even pay your taxes using real money, gold and silver. For more information, visit UPMA.org. United Precious Metals Association. Protect your wealth. Return to prosperity.
Okay, that was the first one. There's another one here coming up. Oh, let's do something else. Technology. So does my playlist. There it is.
Is using your currency costing you money? Knowing all your choices in currency can increase your purchasing power. Any form of money used as a medium of exchange or in circulation is a currency. Understanding the different forms can help you know when to use each kind. When paying for goods, services, and taxes, you can use legal tender or barter property. The United States recognizes multiple kinds of legal tender, including paper, gold, and silver dollars. Using legal tender can often be the best choice. Bartering for items using non-legal tender, such as gold and silver bullion or other property, carries a serious downside. A potential capital gains tax liability, which can run as high as 28%. Virtual currencies, like Bitcoin, are also in this category. The U.S. Internal Revenue Service says that a virtual currency is treated as property for federal tax purposes. That means profits in Bitcoin get taxed. With Bitcoin, you basically have to keep track of your capital gains, every transaction. The Supreme Court recognized early on that the moment you tax money, it ceases to be money. The benefit of using legal tender is that it is not taxed like barter property is. According to federal law, as well as the laws of several states, United States coins and currency, including Federal Reserve notes, are legal tender for all debts, public charges, taxes, and dues. This means that any coins minted within the United States most definitely constitute legal tender. Even the Constitution declares that no state shall make anything but gold and silver coin tender in payment of debts. Using U.S. precious metal legal tender can have some amazing advantages over using other legal tender. One of them is purchasing power. The United States Supreme Court has long held that a coin dollar is worth no more for the purposes of tender in payment of an ordinary debt than a note dollar. The law knows no difference between them. Even though a 1 ounce U.S. minted Rocky Liberty silver coin is $1, its purchasing power far exceeds that of a $1 Federal Reserve note. Nevertheless, because the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, by law, is supposed to maintain the equal purchasing power of each kind of United States currency, federal courts still hold to the legal fiction that a dollar is a dollar, regardless of the physical embodiment of the currency. The mission of the United Precious Metals Association is to promote choice in currency. UPMA reopens the door to the gold standard that has essentially been closed to U.S. citizens for more than a generation. UPMA makes it possible for members to exchange Federal Reserve notes and bullion holdings, tax-free, into gold and silver legal tender dollars that can be held and spent as easily as paper currency. So, whether you prefer to hold the kind of dollars that hold their purchasing power over the long haul, or just want to stretch your dollar's purchasing power, join UPMA and go gold today. Holding gold and silver certainly makes sense, but the buy-sell spread can undermine the benefits. Many of us feel our economy is on shaky ground, and that the move to precious metals is one obvious strategy to prepare for what might lie ahead. When acquiring gold, you want the best deal possible. Who wouldn't? But where do you find it? Most people end up paying premium prices because they choose to buy bullion from a gold dealer. Did you know that if you bought gold from a typical dealer and then immediately tried to sell it back, you wouldn't receive a full refund? Why? Well, honestly, Dealing with bullion traders is just like dealing with any other retail business. To turn a profit, they have to buy low and sell high. This is known as the buy-sell spread. Gold dealers typically sell bullion for amounts well above their acquisition costs. And when you want to sell back bullion, the dealer may only pay spot price or less. While this helps the dealer, it hurts you, the consumer. Thankfully, the United Precious Metals Association can help you avoid these costs. UPMA offers its members paper to silver and gold dollar exchanges free of charge. UPMA exists in part to relieve its members of the burden of the buy-sell spread. If you want to convert back and forth between paper and gold dollars, the same daily exchange rate applies. Because UPMA is an association of members and not a group of shareholders, we can offer advantages others can't. With all of life's ups and downs, UPMA takes the worry out of holding and spending gold and silver dollars. With that peace of mind, you can focus on what's most important to you. So call UPMA and go golden today.
All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that. It's been a while since I've seen those as well, so. But I think it's really important to archive the message of gold and silver and the main message and purpose of UPMA so that we can move forward with what we're trying to do here, which is go back to the law of the land, which is gold and silver is money. So, and having a choice in currency. So I'm really excited that we can have this turnout and have a participation once a year with everybody who wants to, who's a member of UPMA. And we're hoping to hear from you tonight on how we can continue to make UPMA better and just keep moving forward. So, and I appreciate those that have served on the board with me as we've been working towards finding the best way to promote UPMA, the best way to get moving forward, and to continue on this great adventure. And it's interesting to see how more and more the concerns that we have are continuing to be true. Where the concerns we're having, it's getting more polarizing out there, isn't it? So it's interesting. It makes you wonder when it's going to, as the chief said, when are we going to get unified? When are we going to finally realize that we are one people and that we're only hurting ourselves when we hurt other people? So I hope that this association and this membership that we have here is one way that we can start feeling unified in a world where they just want to divide us. And there's an old parable about a man and his sons who he had 7 sons, and the sons had an inheritance coming to them. It was a large inheritance, and all they could do was quarrel and fight with each other. And in fact, some evil men were trying to break them up so they could leverage in there and use that division against them. And then as the parable goes, his father got them together and said, okay, sons, here's some bundle of sticks here on the wall here, or on the table. I'll give you guys 100 gold coins if you can just break these sticks. And every one of those sons tried and they couldn't do it. And this is impossible. And then he says, actually, there's nothing more easy to do. All you have to do is untie this bundle and start breaking them one by one. And he snaps them, and all the sons are like, whoa, well, anybody could have done that. He says that that's exactly the point. He says, if you divide, anybody can break you. But if you stay together, nobody can. And so the moral of the story is nations and individuals and groups, if we stay together and are unified, nothing can break us. The division is what turns us apart. So some announcements. We want to get into the part. I don't know if you guys have the agenda here, but we wanted to say that we are including some tours. For those of you that have not gotten to see UPMA, the building, involved in the area where we have everything, we're going to have those available to you following the summit. So There's a board of directors meeting after the summit, and so for those of you that want to go over there, it's only about 5 miles away, 10 miles away from here. Other than that, let's kind of go over the proposal of a formation of a bylaws committee, and then we're going to talk about nominations of board of directors members, and then we'll go to proposed bylaw changes, and then we'll have an audit report of the holdings by the audit team, and we'll talk about membership and vaulting report from Chris Jensen, who's the president of Quintrix Holdings Incorporated, and then we're going to have an introduction by of the new software capabilities of the website by Jeff McClellan, if he's available to do that. I think he's planning on it. Okay. And so I wanted to propose, and I may need Larry's assistant here, that we had a lot of requests, and we'll talk about that from our members from various places on some bylaw changes and how that's to be implemented. And so we wanted to propose, and we looked at the bylaws, and there wasn't really any formal way that we've set up to create bylaws or adjust them formally. And so we wanted to propose a committee to be able to propose the bylaw changes that we can go submit it to the board of directors, and we can have general and special counsel look at those proposed changes, work on the language, get it so that everybody feels like it's a good proposal, and then bring it to you, the members, to vote if that's the changes we want to propose. And so, if we want to do that as a membership, I would need somebody to propose or not, or propose a formal formation of a bylaws committee.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I agree. I move that we create a bylaw committee so that we can improve our bylaws.
Second.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Second.
Okay, so let's just for the minutes, your name?
Craig Beatty?
Craig Mabey. Okay, so second by Craig Mabey and Kevin Brown made the motion.
Okay, so we have a vote in a second. Any discussion regarding that? Any questions before we do a formal vote? Okay, so we have a proposal for a formation of a bylaws committee. All in favor, say aye. Oh, for those of you that are credentialed members, can you hold up your sign? And then all in favor, hold up your sign and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hold up your sign. Okay. Let's see, it appears to be unanimous, so that motion passes. And so we will work together with the board of directors. And this doesn't necessarily have to be board of directors to be on the committee. And so if some of the members want to be on that bylaws committee, please get a hold of Robin or myself or Larry and express your desire to do that. We have a comment from Jolie. Bye.
Mr. Chairman, can we have a credentials report as we're taking the votes?
Yes, let's, Robin, could you give us a credential report?
Yes, we have 53 members present that are voting members of UPMA.
So can you explain that a little bit too?
Why 54?
So in order for us to establish quorum today, we need to have at least 50 UPMA members that have had holdings in the UPMA accounts for the last 6 months previous to this meeting. And we have 53 members today that qualify to be voting members.
Okay, so yeah, we were getting organized. So in the past, we went for 50 members. We're starting to pay attention better. That means we're getting better organized. So this is great. And so, in the discussions, if you've held any amount in UPMA above the zero amount, we've discussed that if you're there for 6 months with holdings, you are a credentialed member prior to the meeting so that your vote can be counted. So,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just, if we're still on the topic of creating the bylaw committee, I don't know what the intent was, but are we going to be nominating people to that committee now in this membership meeting? Or is the intent to establish the people who will be on that committee in our board meeting? I just want it to be clear for everyone here.
So that's a good clarification. So do we need to further clarify that point so we can say that, and we can vote on this, I suppose. So I'm going to propose that the board of directors, well, we form that committee, and then nominees can be anybody who wants to, you know, members of the board primarily will be on that, and anybody else that the board members approves. So if you want to get a hold of us to be on that, if you're a member, that's totally appropriate. And we probably won't be able to facilitate everybody if it's a lot, but if it's a good dedicated group. The one thing I've noticed that because this is it's been a big voluntary job, that it's, you know, if you've taken the time, you have time to do it, you know, we appreciate it because it's a lot of work to keep on top of everything. So does that answer your question? Do we need a vote for that, or is that just clarification? Okay. Okay, because that's how we would do it anyways with the board and with the council. So with that, I want to announce the nomination of new board members. And so I was given, looking at the bylaws, I needed to form we saw the formal way to propose new board of director members. So there's a 3-year automatic term for, thank you, for the board of director members. And right now we have about 20. We can have up to 60 according to our laws, bylaws, but we need at least 9 to have a quorum at board of directors. And so I feel like, because it's been a voluntary position, that we need to have at least about 20 so that from people's schedules, if they can't be there, if we have at least that many, then we can usually form a quorum pretty easy. So with that, the retired board members this year were Tim Dumoulin and Doc Waterman. And so, and I think there was one other, but we want to appreciate their service. I'm trying to think if there was. I think it was just those two. Just those two. Thank you. So we want to appreciate those, but we also have historically for those board of director members, if they have a desire to serve, and if we want to vote them in, and also other nominees to maintain that number, to give them an opportunity if they wanted to serve again for another 3-year term. And so, Tim Dumoulin expressed that as well, and then we wanted to also nominate Doc Waterman again for another 3-year term. And then also, we wanted to nominate, I'll have to remind me your name because it's slipping. I think I have your bio here. Yes, thank you. Robert Ide from Wyoming. Now, one of the things on the video that we were watching was states that had kind of passed gold laws or were passing them. That's changed now. One of the new states that are in there is Wyoming. And Robert and his wife were pretty key. Larry went up there, and maybe Larry's back there, so I won't have him come up here, but I had a chance to talk and interview Robert because his name was put forward to be on the board of directors. You get to know him a little bit before we nominated him to kind of see how he was involved with UPMA. And he says he met Larry, who was helping pass legislation up in Wyoming, and his wife, Robert and his wife were key into getting, especially his wife, were key into getting Campaign for Liberty and just get the word out and help pass the legislation that was similar to ours here. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe you can speak to it, Larry, they did pass it in Wyoming, and they can now use gold, silver. It's one of the best laws. And could you explain a little bit about why? Yes. Yeah. Robert, do you want to come up here so everybody can see who you are? And then Tim Jimmel on here. And I don't know if is Doc Waterman here? Okay, he's not here.
Well, we have a wonderful slate of nominees, and the work that was done in Wyoming is just fabulous. They got some things into their law that I only wish we could have here in Utah. And so it's really good. It's very energizing to go up and meet with the legislature there and to feel the passion that they have for personal liberty and so forth. So I'd like to ask Robert just to give us a few words about his feelings regarding sound money and principles of liberty and so forth. If you want your wife to come up and stand here with you, she's the engine. Come on, get up here. Come on, everybody clap for her. Because the whole thing, it's kind of a package deal. We're really electing her.
Thanks for the opportunity. Larry is absolutely correct. She's the driving force. She's the state coordinator, my wife, Kathy, for Campaign for Liberty. It's a Ron Paul organization that was formed back when he was running for president in 2008. And anyway, we got on board with Ron Paul a long time ago. My wife signed up to be the state coordinator. I've always been a strong sound money guy. I always remember back to when, if anybody remembers Max Kaiser saying, buy silver, break JP Morgan. So, in one of Ron Paul's, big tenets of Campaign for Liberty is sound money. And he wrote the book on End the Fed. So, there was an article a long time ago on Zero Hedge when I first learned about UPMA, and I've always been a sound money guy. And it looked like, the question is always, people say, well, if you buy it, what do you do with it? You bury it, you get a safe, and UPMA is really filling that void that a lot of people have on, liquid gold. And that's the beauty of it is you can convert it, and that 0% spread is about as good as you can get. When you read those things, how can you not like this organization, especially with the people that we've learned today who are, behind it in Ireland and my wife, she's the real activist. She's the one that worked really hard to get that bill passed in Wyoming. It's called the Wyoming Legal Tender Act. And the following year, Larry came out and helped us with further legislation regarding trying to get the state to invest some of their reserves into gold and silver. And my wife's actually working on a new bill right now to get a bullion depository in our state. So with that, I'm not real impressive other than I love this organization. I love sound money, honest money, and it's great to see all of the patriots in this room today supporting that.
So I've served the last few years, and I was informed just before this meeting, or about a week or maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, that my term is up. And to be totally honest, I'm totally good with that. I'm totally good with my term being up. However, I was reminded by a number of individuals, because I do work in finance and I do have kind of activities that I get involved in, I'll just call it the Alpine group, for lack of a better term, that there were some advantages to having a finance guy that's already working over there part-time to remain on the board. So I'm willing to remain on the board and or to be nominated again for the board.
All right, so we need a motion to, if we want to move that we accept those nominations. Or we have a comment?
I move that we nominate those two individuals. Three, yeah.
We have a second on those nominations. Okay, second. All in favor? Credentialed members? Any opposed? Okay, thank you so much. So please reach out to us, and if you have any questions about the board and when we meet too, and if you want to observe and come participate and see what we do, we usually have it at the UPMA building 3 times a year. So today, and if some of you want to observe too, we're going to be staying after here. So okay, so thank you, and thank you, Rob, for being willing to serve. That's really wonderful. So okay, so we have some proposed bylaw changes. Now, since we've just formed the bylaws committee, we'll probably need to address that as well. But I want to take some time over to Kevin Brown, who's on the board, to kind of talk about his changes, and then we can talk about kind of get the general consensus or feeling towards some of the changes he wants to propose. And I'll turn the time over to Kevin. And we want to give him a few minutes to talk about this.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick introduction. My name is Kevin James Brown. I was the 2018 Republican nominee for the Idaho State Legislature and resultant member of the board of directors for the United Precious Metals Association. I've also served as a bylaw committee chairman for the Bannock County Republican Central Committee, and I've contributed substantially to the Bannock chapter of the Republican Liberty Caucus of Idaho in establishing its bylaws, and have made an impact on the state level in Idaho as well. So no, I don't live here in Utah. I come from Idaho, but I do have a lot of experience in corporation bylaw. Mr. Chairman, you and I had a conversation last night, and so I would really, and first of all, I'm jazzed. I'm totally excited that we have a full quorum here. So I'm really excited for these bylaw amendment proposals. But I would like to drop one of the exhibits. The chairman and I talked about the quorum, and I think that one needs a little bit more attention before we move through. But other than that, separate from that, I would just like to move my motion that I distributed last night in an email. I'll read it now. I move the adoption of my amendment proposal to be taken up in the sequence of exhibits proposed herein, where a vocal reading of each exhibit is read aloud to the members present prior to debate on such exhibit, and that each exhibit be processed separate from all other exhibits. Just need a second. We have a second. He was first, but okay. We have a second and third.
So we have a motion on the table, and can you restate the motion?
Yes. The motion is, with the exception of exhibit on quorums, let me just find it real quick. I believe it's 13, but I don't want to say that. The exception of, yes, exhibit 13. I move the adoption of my amendment proposal to be taken up in the sequence of exhibits proposed herein, where a vocal reading of each exhibit is read aloud to the members present prior to debate on such exhibit, and that each exhibit be processed separate from all other exhibits.
We had a second, and then do we have any discussion on that from any members?
Right, I have a comment. So this is, Kevin's put in some really good work in putting together these proposed amendments. I've read through them very carefully and very impressed with many of them. I do feel that there are some refinements. I really think that this would best be taken up in the bylaws committee that we just formed. And so that would just be my only comment. I think they're very good, very sound suggestions. And I think that ultimately we're going to, want to move in that direction and adopt basically what you proposed. But there are a few things as I went through that I think I personally wouldn't feel entirely comfortable with just adopting it at this point without a little more kind of examination by the committee. So that's just my thought.
Any other comments, discussion?
I respect that, and I would like for all the input that we can in that bylaw committee. However, we have some announcements that are coming later on this agenda that have to do with the Goldback. And all of you that are members of the board of directors have an understanding that we want to make the Goldback an offering. And it is my belief that in order to service our members with that Goldback, it's going to require some changes. And so these may not be things, not everyone may agree with my proposals, and that's fine, we can vote them down. But the top 6, I feel have to be dealt with, or we run the risk, if we do nothing, we run the risk of becoming non-compliant with the steps that we're going to take in bringing the Goldback online. So I want to stay in compliance. I take my position on a member of the board of directors seriously, and I want to make sure that that we're in a good place. We're in a good place legally, and that's, again, I support the bylaw committee. If I didn't, I wouldn't have moved for its adoption.
Here we have a comment from Jolie Bye.
So as I understand this motion, this is essentially a motion to bring these items to the table for us to discuss today. So I'm wondering if it's in order for us to go ahead and hear them, and as we have individual concerns from general counsel, that be brought up on the specific item, and those specific items where there may be questions, that those could then be considered by this body to be referred to the Bylaws committee. But those that may not have objection could be heard and possibly moved into Bylaws by this body today.
Okay, so do you want to amend your motion to maybe read it, the specific one that we're talking about, and then we can bring it up at the Bylaws committee? Is that kind of the motion? Okay. Okay. So I've been informed because there's a few members that are leaving, and there's a few that came to hear the keynote speaker, and so because of this, the legalistic nature of the bylaws and the proposals and the readings of that, I have been asked to continue to hold the motion out there, but then could we postpone a little bit for the discussion after we hear from the keynote speaker for those that came to hear him? And so, are you okay with that order? Okay, so, okay, so we're moving that we move the agenda forward. We have a second. All in favor? And any opposed? Maybe that's the best way to do it. Okay, so we'll just fast forward really quickly. Thank you, Kevin. We'll talk to you in a minute. And then I'd like to introduce Jeremy Gordon, who is this is by Jeremy, President Goldback's introducing the now speaker. Since you know him a little bit better, you're on the agenda. If not, I can do that. So let me give you this.
Okay. So I'm just going to introduce Adam here, who has been key in creating the Goldback. He's been developing the Valorum technology for quite a while now that we're using for this new project. So Adam Trexler graduated magna cum laude from the University of Maryland, obtained his MA with a distinction and PhD from Queen Mary, University of London. From 2008 to 2012, Adam was employed as a professor and researcher at the first, second-ranked universities for literature research in the UK. Throughout his academic career, he was the recipient of numerous scholarships, grants, and research fellowships, including a 3-year postdoctoral fellowship at the University of Exeter and a full scholarship and bursary to complete his PhD. His research has focused on how technological change leads to the formation of new cultural values, particularly with regard to credit, the gold standard, money, labor, art, and more recently, he has published a number of articles in leading journals of his field. He has a book, Anthropocene Fictions, that was published, and before his academic career, Adam was the vice president of Corporate Finance Inc., where he implemented corporate structuring for early stage companies. He was also responsible for strategizing and implementing marketing campaigns and draft public offering documents. And we got Adam here.
Thanks, Jim. Is that going at all? You can hear it? Oh, okay, great. So am I using this too? Yes. Okay, all right, got it. So I want to thank the committee for asking me to come this year. It's a great honor to be here at the UPMA. I've been a follower for some time, and we actually first heard about you guys because Bylaw had a policy with Larry. So Bylaw is a technology company, and the title of the talk today is about the future of currency. So just a bit about what Bylaw is. We're a private mint, so there are public mints, that create money for countries, and then there are private mints that mint coins. We are a private mint that serves citizens with the most accessible and secure value products known to technology, and that's the mission of the company. I want to talk about what's significant about this Goldback project. We've been around since 2012, have made a number of advances, done a number of projects, but I came here today because I want to talk to you about why I see Goldbacks being a historical pioneer. Two terms that kind of work against each other: history, pioneer. First, I want to talk about the universal competition of value storage. It's a big mouthful of words. Second idea is that there's a contemporary crisis in value storage. Third, I'm going to talk a little bit about, not too technical, but about the Bylaw technology and what we do. And then four, I want to talk about the historical mission of Goldbacks. So spendable physical value is a universal need. Every human being, there's a few things that are universal. Every human being on Earth has to think about the future, has to find a way to store value for a future time, for retirement, for children, for more difficult times, or just simply to pay bills at the end of the month. And I want to give a sense of scale of that kind of market. So the paper United States greenbacks is about $1.7 trillion in physical storage, not bank deposit vaults. I mean paper itself. Paper euros are about 1.2 trillion euros, and the gold market capitalization is about 7 trillion. People are kind of surprised by that gold is actually worth more than both paper dollars, paper euros. About half of that is jewelry, but even still, you're still above paper dollars and paper euros. Now, if you look at what's wonderful about the Fed is that they tell you exactly what they're doing. It's all public. So if you look, really, paper dollars are all contain, all of the value is in the $100 bill. This is a chart of value by dollar. And if you notice, the $1 and the $100, the 100's worth about 100 times as much. So ones circulate the most, but 100s are hoarded. And that's where almost all of the value is. So the value storage function of currency dwarfs this exchange function. So people say, oh, well, maybe cash is going away because I use my card for everything. Don't believe it. That's a huge misconception. In fact, the market for paper value storage, for physical value storage, is growing at 8% a year, even as digital transactions take over the world. And the reason for that is because we have this universal need to store value physically. The euro is doing the exact same thing. And this is a historical need that's happened since the beginning of time. The first electrum coin, it's a combination of gold and silver with a bit of copper. It was the Lydian stater. It circulated far beyond its jurisdiction because it was useful. And what we see today is that paper dollars
paper euros circulate far beyond the bounds of their original issuance because they're useful to other people in storing value. So this coin circulated all over the old world. If you think about the time of Shakespeare, 1600, Shakespeare mentions at least 5 different gold coins because they were all circulating at the same time. You have the Venetian ducat, the Dutch guilder, the Spanish escudo. All of these were circulating at the same time, and people actively traded in them. It's not just the British pound. And it's a very peculiar historical situation that in the United States, we pretty much only accept the greenback. Another thing people don't know is that up until about 1866, there were over 8,000 unique privately issued banknotes. We say banknotes. They were issued by banks, and you'll see the Salt Lake City National Bank up there. They were circulating banknotes. There was a catalog. There was about 8,000 of them circulating, and they did very well. In fact, it was only when the federal government put a tax on them of about 10% that they crushed it. So up to 1866, paper money was privately issued. And even to this day, it's still very possible, and Goldbacks are founded on this idea, to have a community currency. So anybody can get together, you have a group of friends, and you say, we'd like to create a paper currency, and we will circulate it. And if you can get people to sign up for that, if you can exchange value for that paper, you're good to go. And these are some of my favorites. There's the Berkshires and up there in the upper left, and Ithaca. Anybody who went to Cornell, I had someone there. That was their, and those are based on an hour of labor, no matter what your labor is worth. If you dig a ditch or save a life, whatever, that's how they decided to do it. Calgary in Canada, and then my personal favorite with David Bowie on there, that's the Brixton Pound in London. So the point is that everybody can do this, and these are really, popular for local communities, but there's a precedent. Some of them have been around for quite some time. However, there is a crisis in value storage. These are Venezuelan bolivars. I actually was in the Brazilian mint about 6 months ago, and they print all of the bolivars for Venezuela. It's a really good contract for them. And I saw them coming through the presses, probably 10 sheets per minute. And I said, how do you get paid? And they said, dollars. So what I want to get across to you is, people, I think there's a lot of doomsayers. I think there's a lot of people who've tried to sell gold and silver to say, the United States is going to collapse in the next 6 months, and you should buy. I don't ever say that. I'm a patriot. I hope that the Goldback continues forever, and may we always continue to have free money that the world accepts. What I will say is that every year a paper currency collapses. These are the bolivars from Venezuela. It's happening in Argentina today. Everywhere in the world, every year, a currency collapses. We had a deal somewhere else in South America, and we were bringing Orem technology to this country. The governor signed up to it, the governor of the central bank signed up to it, and then I couldn't get a hold of him, just 3 years ago. And I found out a month later they had devalued their currency by 50%. So everybody's holdings, everybody's salary, all was worth suddenly half. It's just a fact of the modern world that this is constantly happening. So the first part of the crisis in value that I was talking about is that there's widespread mistrust in the very best value storage countries. I don't think that the things that are happening in the United States engender trust in the world. I don't have a lot of confidence in the euro. More seriously than any of the kind of political crises, there's structural risk to all of these economies. 21 trillion in the US, we had our first $1 trillion deficit. It doesn't make sense to me. And what's more significant is that less than 9% of the world lives in the combined dollar and eurozone regions. So you have 91% of the world outside of the dollar, outside of the euro, where those are legal tender, they still want them because there's no alternative. So what you see is a wholesale abandonment of savings behavior, and people who are using these currencies are having to encounter planned inflation with a 2% US target, and we can have a really interesting discussion about if that 2% is real. But even the official policy is that your money's worth 2% less than it was last year. There's a second crisis though, and that crisis is that coins can't get any smaller. I want to show you my first physical example of the day, but I have a really hard time finding it. That we're going to get here. Oh, I always do it. This is the smallest government-issued gold coin available today. It's 1/20 of an ounce. I buy these once a year. I'm cut off by Valorum. I buy them for demonstration purposes and then I lose them. We can't get any smaller with coins. It's a problem. So at $15.50 an ounce, when you factor in the manufacturing cost, people can't afford this for daily transactions. At a global level, people can't afford gold. How many $1,500 transactions do you make in a month? Not that many. How many transactions do you make in a day? A lot more. Gold is broken. And the other problem is that if I had an ounce coin here today, maybe this room is a little bit unusual. Nobody would take it from me for $1,500 because nobody would trust it. You'd say, oh, well, I gotta test it. I don't know if it's really fake. Gold coins are being counterfeited in China every day. So there's a crisis of acceptability, a crisis of divisibility. And here's the real problem. This is my idea of what wealth looked like as a kid. I don't know if anybody remembers this picture. It's Scrooge McDuck, and the reason I love this picture, the reason I always come back to it in a lot of presentations. So you see this 90-foot depth, and if you gauge the size of Scrooge's vault, there's something very interesting about it. For Scrooge to have this vault, this would be all of the gold mined in human history. It's about perfect. All of the gold ever mined in human history would be in this vault, including all of the jewelry. There's not that much gold. And the problem we have today, the US only consumes like 10% of the world's gold. It's India, it's China, it's the Middle East, South America. They're the ones driving gold consumption, just like they're all taking the dollars. 7.53 billion people want to get in Scrooge's pool. There's not enough gold. There's not enough physical gold for the world. And you see it in the prices, $272 in 2000. We're at about $1,500 today, finding a new floor. So what happened around 2011 is I heard about this technology. I had a really nice academic career going, and I said, this technology has the potential for world historical importance. And what it is, it's a nanotechnology deposition process where you can have a small, for our intents and purposes, as small an increment of gold as you would want to have. The gold is assayable and recoverable. It has security features and certainty of paper money and scalable production. And we've gotten to the point today where we've had governmental issues that have been made legal tender. It's pretty impressive to go from that in 2012. We have a really great team. This is our team. I'm not going to go through all the people. I'm just the jerk in front. But we do have Ed Moy, who's the 38th director of the US Mint, a great defender of liberty. We have John Cameron, who helped pioneer the security features on the $100 bill. We have two of the biggest coin wholesalers in the country, former president of the vacuum deposition, and a bunch of other really luminous people as well who have gotten involved in this project. And this was our first legal tender issue in 2018 with our friend the Queen. So what is the Aurum? It's a multi-layer film of 24 karat gold. So you have a layer of proprietary polymer that holds printing and security features. That's the security features. And then what we do is we deposit gold atom by atom individually on top of that film. And then another layer of proprietary polymer holds it all together in a very durable package. So because the gold is applied atom by atoms, rather than starting big and going small, we start small and go big. And we have a 1% precision rate. So we have a piece of film that's about yay wide, 30 inches, up to 30 inches, and we can go for 2 football fields. And we have 1% precision. And it's the coating thickness is between 200 and 4,000 nanometers to that. So we've produced about 500,000 Aurum. And I have to tell you, when we started this, after a couple of years of development, we were able to produce our first for-sale Aurum with $2 of gold. We were able to do it for $30. It's a really good deal. So we worked and worked and worked, and I was very proud when we got it to parity. And now we've done something quite a bit beyond that. So, and the other thing I want to say is that we're able to integrate government level anti-counterfeiting features that dwarf conventional coins. So you can look at an Aurum, recognize it, and trust it. This is one of the deposition machines we use. It's actually done in a deep space vacuum, and that's why there's that metal chamber around it. Here's the anti-counterfeiting features being applied and the gold being sealed. And then there's slit and cut to length. It's very important to us, verification. People say, how do you know the gold's in there? Well, the first thing we do is we send an X-ray fluorescence beam right through it and check the coating thickness of the gold and the purity of the gold. We also have optical sensors in line testing how much gold is being put down. And then we test that against fire assays. These are crucibles, and we can use them and weigh them with precise scales. And then we check those results, fourth test, against scientific laboratories accredited for COMEX Exchange. I want to talk, so this is technology, and technology is awfully nice, but if nobody uses your technology, nobody cares. Now I want to talk about why I see the Goldback as really, really important. So we know gold hasn't gone anywhere, still in use, still in circulation. Biggest buyer of gold, anybody want to guess? Central banks. So they say, oh, well, no, paper is money. Central banks are the biggest buyers. Just let you know, it's all on their balance sheet. So $7 trillion market cap on gold. There's also a widespread model of community currency, so they're on good, solid footing, both gold and community currency. And then they came to me and they said, could we create 5 denominations? And I said, how about 3? So we need 5. So, okay. So they created 5 denominations in very recognizable quantities, 1,000th of a troy ounce to a 50th of a troy ounce, 51 thousandths of a troy ounce. The other significant thing they've started to do is create a network of acceptability. So you can have something in your pocket, but if nobody knows what it is, what good does it do? And what Goldback Inc. started to do is go out to businesses and say, would you take this? And businesses started to say yes, and then they signed them up. And so what they're creating is a value that can be saved and spent in a voluntary mutual standard that preserves wealth. And I think it's absolutely genius and far beyond the resources of Valorum, frankly. Pioneers of history. There were several technological breakthroughs that I want to share with you that were difficult for us. We were forced to create, by Jeremy, thanks, the biggest Aurum ever by weight. The 50 Goldback for $130 rivals the smallest gold coins. I have a stack of them right here. So each of these Goldbacks is the same as one of those 20th of an ounce coins. Same amount of gold, but in a beautiful, usable package that'll fit in your wallet. Can be exchanged and has government level security features built right into it, so you know what you're getting. That technology to go to that thickness was absolutely impossible a year ago. When we started coding at 1,000 nanometers, nobody in the industry thought that was possible, and now we're probably at 6 times that now. The other challenge that I was tasked with was they said, you need to make some small change. And I said, what what do they call small? And they wanted to have a gold product for 1/1000th of an ounce at $2.60. And I said, it can't be done. And then they made me. So I can tell you that we don't really make money on that, but you can buy gold at $2.60 in today's prices on a fluctuating market. It means that nobody in America can say they can't afford gold. It's a profound implication that gold can once again be widespread and everybody can participate in that standard. Another significant innovation that they did is they said all bills are going to be on the same standard. It doesn't matter, you're not going to pay a high premium for the low bills and a low premium for the high bills. It's very easy. One Goldback, $2.60, transparent exchange rate. Doesn't matter if you have a 50 or a 1, it all works. And they put that together. It was very complicated modeling that. And then the other thing is that we have, as I've said, government level anti-counterfeiting features. So you look at a Goldback, the best feature actually is the imprint on the back. This takes $1 million equipment because what you're seeing is a gold structured atom by atom into that picture. You can't get that with a foil. This is an issue of historical significance. The Paper Money Guarantee Company has already started holdering these. First day of issue, this is 70. I had to laugh. They also did it for the ones, so it's about, I don't know if I can say this. It's about $18 wholesale to coin dealers to hold a $2.60 product because we break their model. But people are already collecting these, and thousands of citizens are already participating. The one Goldback is already being sent out, and what we really are starting to see is voluntarily circulating physical gold for the first time since 1933 in this country. That to me is an exciting place to be. So I do want to say that we're producing over 130,000 one Goldbacks, which is kind of mind-boggling to me. And I see this as a new project for liberty. A new project for liberty that's based on a really sound history of over 2,000 years of gold as a store of value and the power of individual people to build a standard that they want to buy into. And that's what we're doing. Thank you.
That was wonderful. That's awesome. Now, that's really awesome. And this does represent what we want to do at UPMA is give people a choice in currencies. And it's really awesome when they're gold and silver, right? So we thank Adam for coming out, and I couldn't help to think that one of the atom by atoms was Adam. So, all right. So I'd like to also really quickly, we're gonna do a quick audit report for the gold. We're gonna make a little bit of an announcement. As many of you may know, we do now take Goldbacks. We put them in our vaults, and we're gonna be talking a little bit about that as well. And as UPMA, and we're gonna have a quick audit report from Paul and myself, if Paul would be willing to come up. Paul is a member. He's not on the board of directors, but he was willing to, as a member, come and do an audit where we go into, unlike Fort Knox, the vault, and actually count the gold and silver one by one at one. And we're getting pretty heavy in gold and silver, so it's starting to become quite a project. So I'd maybe like to pass it over to him if he wants to kind of talk about what he observed and how the numbers lined up or didn't line up, and let's see how it went.
We visited both the Brinks vault and the vault in Alpine and the safe upstairs in Alpine, and literally looked through and touched all of the gold and didn't touch all of the silver. Some of them were in sealed cases where these monster boxes are full. But we literally went through every one of those coins, and it matched up with the number of coins and types of coins and goldbacks that are stated on the audit sheet. And my assumption is that represents everything that we have contributed to UPMA. It was literally a 5-hour project at both the Brinksville and the UPMA facility to go through and do that counting. And everything added up to just what was claimed to be on the list of holdings by UPMA down to the last coin.
All right, thank you for that. So,
I was just going to ask you, did you have to weigh them also to make sure that they're weighed? No?
the option is available to weigh those. So we want to have audits quite a few times a year. On the bylaws, it specifically says once a month, and that has not been happening. But I think we have them every board meeting now, and so that we can give the report. And it's quite a process, and so as we find that process, but we want to make sure that it's open for those even members who want to maybe participate can do that. I have another comment.
What are the amounts of holdings?
It's interesting that you should ask that. That's what's coming up next. Chris, would you give us a report on everything?
Sure, yeah.
Can you combine
That
them?
up there real quick.
Okay, we'll have a report. It's roughly around 26 million from what I've seen, unless I'm mistaken again. But so it's a little bit less than that. To be brief, but this is Chris Jensen. He's the president of Quick Holdings Incorporated, and he is the operations guy over at UPMA as well. And so he's the one that makes things run smoothly. So he's going to give us some just a couple updates, and then we'll move on to the final things.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so I am the Quintric Holdings Inc. president, so that just means I'm in charge of the vault and I have to be the buck stops with me. So that's that. I'm also one of the co-founders of Goldback. So just a really quick, I've got a lot of data here. Slow me down if you really want to get down into it, but I'm going to hit the answers to your questions there. So with our growth in the UPMA, it's been very significant, especially over the past couple of years. We've come a long, long way with gold. The gold dollar accounts. You can see that we've been holding about the same number of gold coins, especially in the last couple of months as gold went up. A lot of people started to redeem. There's one particular person of note, one of the members, that it was 560 gold eagles just in October, right after our meeting last year. You can see that hit in June when we pulled all of it out. And so instead of carrying that inventory for resale, those actually got sold. So there is a drop there, but you can see that big steep, steep jump back up just over the last couple of months. Silver has been on an upward trend in UPMA membership holdings, very significant. It's been a 34% plus over the last year, which if you put that in how many ounces of silver, that's 83,000 silver dollars that have come into the UPMA system, which is very significant, and 35 of which were just in the last couple of months. So very significant growth, especially since the launch of the Goldback program, as we'll kind of see here. So to get to the answer of your question, the total capital accounts, with just the gold and silver holdings, we're at 21 and a half, a little over 21.5 million that's in the vault now. last meeting, we were at 15, just over 15 and a 10th. So quite a significant jump, and you can see that big steep growth right there. You'll also notice that green line. That green line is, and it continues down, but right at the end of July is when the Goldback program launched. And so if you look at that green line also includes the Goldback holdings that are either being produced or being held by UPMA members. So you see that significant jump there, and that puts that total at just under 23 million in the vaults. Also, as a point of note, this is all the history that we have from the UPMA when we started, from the history that we could grab and reach as far back as we could. That was in July 2015. The capital account total at that time, just before I started working here, was just under $450,000. So just under $500,000 worth of gold and silver in the vault. It was a very small pile. And we are now almost at 23 million. It's a very big change. The UPMA is growing, and the UPMA is very significant and moving forward. You guys are part of that. And so I want to take a second to note that there, that we are moving forward, and you can see that we've just been jumping and jumping and jumping from year to year to year. So it's been awesome. And then if we look at that, just the Goldbacks again, it's 1.41 million. That's on top of what is in just the gold and silver accounts as the difference. And this is the new accounts by month. So we have historical data back through March of this year. When we started using internally legal tender services, they reported this to me. They've been using HubSpot to kind of track their membership. And so you can see that growth there we were pretty steady between 40 to 80 new members per month. We launched the Goldback program that last week of July, and you can also see that significant change. We started pushing marketing, we started talking about UPMA, and that it was offering the Goldback as one of its products. And you can see how many members just this last month. That's 43% of an increase in the UPMA membership just from one month to the next. So that's very significant, very huge. We think that this, the Goldback program it's not only getting traction as itself, but it's bringing people who are funding their gold and their silver accounts as well. This is not just purely people who want to have Goldbacks. This is people who see the UPMA and are brought there because of the Goldback and like it here. So you're not alone. And again, that total number of the combined capital accounts is that just under 23 million. So yeah, hopefully that answers all your questions. Thank you.
All right, we want to have a quick announcement on or do you want to skip that, or quick. With member to member. Okay, we're going to do this really quickly. We have a new feature. Well, a renewed way of feature. We've had it since the beginning, but Jeff McClung.
Okay. So that was a great intro to our next topic. When we started working on the idea of the Specie Legal Tender Act back in 2011, Wyoming, they've been doing the same thing, in Arizona and so forth. The goal is choice in currency and to actually make it so that people can use and spend their gold and silver, right? That's the idea. You gotta have a viable choice. You could go into a shop, you could say, well, should I pull out my paper, my gold, my silver? What choice do I want to make today? And it may have to do with what kind of purchase you're making. It may have to do with the relative value of gold, silver, and paper at any given time. So it's that intelligent choice of currency. So at UPMA, that was the initial goal, and that has been what we've been really working towards all these years. We've had several hiccups. We've tried, different approaches. One thing that we've made a real push in the last half year or so was really automating our member-to-member transfers so that we're actually consumer to member merchant transfers so that members could purchase goods or services using their gold dollar, their silver dollar, or their Goldback. And so we have Jeff McClellan here who's going to just tell us a little bit about, he's going to do a little demo for us, how that new member-to-member merchant program works. And so Jeff, let me just turn it over. He's been very involved in that whole project. He's on our legal tender services staff, so there we go.
Thank you. So I'm going to try to be as brief as possible because I know that people really don't want to hear from me. You want to either get out of here or go on to the board meeting. So for those of you here that are a little newer to the United Precious Metals Association, I am here today to tell you that the UPMA is so much more than just the Goldback. So the backbone of what constitutes the UPMA is based upon the premise, as has already been mentioned a couple times here tonight, that we as a people should have choice in our currency, so we can choose what is best for our needs. This is part of what inspired the creation of the Utah Legal Tender Act, and is also why for the last 7 years, the UPMA members have traded US legal tender gold and silver coins within the UPMA network. However, it has also become readily apparent that the use of gold and silver as money is not as simple as just passing a law. So whenever a UPMA member sells gold or silver from their account to liquidate into US dollars, they're making a tacit admission that at least in their standard form, precious metals are not quote unquote real money. Furthermore, the rise of digital transactions has led many people to avoid the use of physical currency entirely. Thus, I can posit that any solution allowing for exchange and for the payment of services using precious metals must also allow for the digital transmission of said metals while avoiding the pitfalls that have mired modern banking services. So I'm here to announce that the UPMA has solved this very problem. Since the end of August, all UPMA members have had the ability to perform member-to-member transactions, as was just mentioned, allowing us to send vaulted gold, silver, and yes, even Goldbacks digitally from any one member to another. I'm going to show you what that interface looks like real briefly. I just need to figure out how it gets up on that screen there.
Can I ask you a question? When you do member-to-member for Goldbacks, are you going to fix the price like of the one Goldback at $2.62, or is the value going to float?
The value will fluctuate just like the price of gold fluctuates.
So I can understand how a gold would fluctuate or silver would fluctuate, but how would the Goldback fluctuate?
For every $10 that 1 ounce of gold, that the spot price changes, the Goldback will change by 1 penny.
Let me also comment on that. The Goldback does not fluctuate. The Goldback is always 1/1000th of an ounce of gold. Gold is number one. Gold is the measure. The dollar fluctuates against the Goldback. The dollar fluctuates against the silver dollar. The dollar fluctuates against the gold dollar. So when you go out and if something is priced in Goldbacks, then you can buy it. 10 Goldbacks yesterday, 10 Goldbacks, tomorrow. But if it's priced in paper dollars, we do have a way of converting that. So they can say, well, we're pricing this product right now in paper dollars. Oh, I just got some. Yep. You have to shake it. No, you have it. It's back. Don't touch it. Okay, so now we're going to show you. Okay, we have a question. Jeffrey's getting set up here for the demonstration. Let's take that question.
Larry, I just wanted to mention that regarding the unit of measurement for the Goldbacks on the website to the value in dollars, US currency. Currently, there's a dollar symbol on the Goldback side, and that's been confusing for new members, such as myself. So our suggestion was to include either 1 unit or 1/1000th of an ounce, something that actually identifies what the value of the Goldback or the volume of the Goldback actually is.
We need an icon instead of the S.
Okay, we need like a GB, yeah, GB, so that to do the unit. Okay, we're gonna do our demonstration now. Very good point, noted.
All right, so if our dear friend John Doe here wishes to send some precious metals to his associate Jane, and he's there at her business, he's making a purchase, he would come in here, he would log into his account, and unfortunately John has nothing in it. So he would need to first put something into his account. And then once he does that, he can come over to that transact button over on the far left side. He clicks it. He enters the email address for Jane's UPMA account. He puts that in. He selects which account he wants it to come out of. So if he wants to send her some Goldbacks, he would then say, okay, I am paying you 3 Goldbacks for this purchase, or 10, or however many it is, and he sends it, which is being blocked by the little Chrome OS. There we go. Oh, that's the close button. So he would, once he has everything in there, he clicks transfer funds, it sends it to her, she logs into her account, she accepts. It's as simple as that. There's really not much more to it than that.
Let me just mention one other thing. There's a description there. You see, just describe the goods or services sold. So the key here is that these transactions are authorized as long as they are for goods and services within a closed loop system. So it's very important that when you do these transactions that you actually put in the description of goods or services that you're actually acquiring. So that fits within the existing legal framework and also within our technological framework. Okay, and we have a question here. We have lots of hands, so. Okay, let's take a few questions and let's see, where do we have?
Where's as the manufacturing cost of the Goldback, or as the scale of the volume of Goldbacks that are being produced increases, do you expect a scaling down of cost?
So the question was, do we expect the premium? So when you talk about gold and silver, you talk about the premium. So typically, the smaller the gold gets, the higher the premium gets. And so as Adam explained to us, what we've done with the Goldback is we have a uniform premium across all Goldbacks. So the question is, will the cost of producing Goldbacks go down over time? I'm going to invite Adam up here to respond to that.
The answer is eventually, but this guy was such a good negotiator that he killed me for the first few rounds of this. So we're about flat right now, and as we scale, we hope so. But a lot of it is built in, the Goldback volume helps us get prices down to where we hope to be a bit more profitable in the next round, and then we can lower prices.
And the other thing to just bear in mind, we're going to get all these questions here. The other thing to bear in mind is that gold in different forms has different premiums for very good reasons. So when you see a spot price of gold, that's for a 400-ounce good delivery bar that's used by central banks. Okay, that's a very different form than
$600,000.
Yeah, then this atomized deposition onto a specialized polymer there. There's obviously a lot of value in the ability to transact with that. We did have several more questions, so can we address?
Yeah, just one comment too, because one of the members here tried a transaction and says it's not showing up. The reason it won't show up when you just send it is because the recipient has to accept it. That's what an escrow function will do. So it will hold it for you in the account, and then the user who it's being sent to will have to accept that. And then it's transferred.
How do you do that?
So in the interface, it'll show you some pending transactions, and this is a minimal viable first round. So there's probably gonna be some interface upgrades that need to happen. But when I did it, I had to accept it through the pending transactions, and then it showed accept. So are you also accepted? Are you trying it now? Okay, we'll have to see.
Question over here.
Except that this is, the Goldback is recoverable and saleable, does that mean you can actually get the gold out of it?
Yeah, Adam, do you want to?
Sure. There's a couple different ways, but basically if you do a careful fire assay, you can get all of the gold back out. And we have to be able to do that because we have edge cuts, edge trim, and we do that on every round. So what you basically do is burn off the plastic and hold the gold. I'm sorry?
If I gave you millions of those Goldbacks, in small ones.
We would love to do that business.
Repeat the question.
The question was, is the gold recoverable in the Goldback? And the answer is yes.
Let's see, good questions in the back here.
So if the premium comes down, if the production costs get cheaper over time, my concern is, of course, is that we wrap that into the value of the Goldback for its exchange rate, right? Is there some kind of guarantee that we can have from Valorum that we know that any reductions, for example, in that cost, which would therefore be reductions in the value per Goldback, will only occur, say, in proportion to the increase in the value of gold versus a dollar, or some other measure like that, so that we can be sure that we don't ever have any depreciation in the value of the Goldback?
That's a really good question. I believe that, and I'll have Adam speak to this just momentarily. I believe that any reductions in cost would come very incrementally over time, and so probably would just get lost in the movement of gold. But let me have Adam speak to that.
Yeah, we're sort of getting to diminishing returns with production costs. I mean, I started at, what did I say, 2,000%, and we've squeezed it a lot. What I will say is that we do intend to continue to pass value on. The price is not set by Valorum. This is not our product. I can't even take Goldbacks out of our production stream and spend them. Goldbacks are sold to Goldback Inc. They are the exclusive distributors of it, and they set the price according to a formula. And so we don't set the price. We pass along the best price that we can. And the truth of the matter is we've done that very aggressively. So.
Yeah. Okay, do we have any other questions? Yes.
Just a little bit of a broader question for UPMA, and probably applies to Goldbacks as well. But in the event of a paper dollar crisis and a flight to safety, precious metals, and you guys get flooded with, orders for precious metals, and there's a supply crunch, how do you deal with that?
That's a really good question. So the question I think we all heard. So by law, the U.S. government is required to produce sufficient gold and silver coin to meet public demand. So we rely on that in part, although there's a lot of things that the federal government is required to do. They don't do it, but that's where you do have instances where something like the Goldback could step in. Because, for example, in Utah, how many of you are aware what our largest export is? It's gold. It's refined gold by more than double of the next thing on the list. So if you're in Utah, you're in gold country. And so we have gold and then there are hills. And so we can pull out the gold, we can send it to Adam, he can make it into Goldbacks. And, so that's one answer, is that we have the gold, actually. As a state, we have the gold here. to the federal government. So what we do is we've got, the US minted coin, and then we've got also the Goldback, which I would argue is legal tender, specie legal tender under the Utah law. There's put together a whole analysis of this, but we believe that within the state of Utah, the Goldback actually can function as a legal tender. And obviously, at the very least, it functions as a voluntary local currency, which is, and there's 2,500 such currencies, I think, circulating right now. So this is not, in that sense, it's not highly novel. Let's see, Phil's got a question.
The premium on one Goldback is approximately $1. Somewhere in that range. Am I understanding that if the premium on a 50 Goldback note would be 50 times $1?
So yeah, the premium is uniform for every Goldback. Right. So that's correct. Phil?
So when you put gold and silver into bullion coins, there's a manufacturing cost. My question is, how does the manufacturing cost of creating a Goldback compare to the manufacturing cost of the bullion metal?
Senior.
So it's about, let's see, so for the coin, it's 5.8%, 6% premium. Okay, so let's just talk retail. Let's talk about retail. So it's about 6% on this kind of coin, and then on a Goldback, it's 75%. So the difference is, and we had the same thing where when we were introduced these and tried to popularize these, well, dude, there's this 6% markup over spot, But then you had to say, well, spot is set by a 400-ounce bar, that is that's used by. So it goes to kind of the usability. That's why you don't, interact. This is a separate currency from the Goldback. The Goldback is a separate currency with its own economics that are built into it in terms of how it's produced, production costs, and so forth. And this is a separate currency as well. Now, the interesting thing about this is the markup on the 1/10 of an ounce is much higher than the markup on the 1 ounce. That's why so what you have with the US government is they say this is legal tender, and yet they treat it like an investment product, where you have a different markup on each denomination of the coin. And so it just doesn't work. That's why when we established the UPMA way back when, we said we're going to use the one coin that has a uniform premium across. And so when we started the dialogue with Adam, we said we have to have a uniform premium that goes across all coins. And so as I said, it's kind of taken a loss on the ones. You see him nodding his head there. And, so that we can have that uniform premium across the board. And so that's really what we're trying to accomplish here. Yes.
Hi, my name's Mark. I'm from the disaster zone called California. I got a lot of questions. One of the reasons I started a UPMA account. Excuse me? Okay, one of the reasons I started an account a couple of years ago was worries that we would have 1933 all over again. And you guys made the case that historically these coins, since they're minted in the U.S., would not be subject to confiscation. Question number one, talk to me about the Goldback and the potential for confiscation, especially for people who are unfortunate enough to live outside the states of Wyoming or Utah.
So confiscation, that issue comes up often as people are looking at this, because we do have that sordid history back in 1933 when by executive order, the President of the United States essentially said, turn in all your gold. It was later ratified by Congress, but it was initially done by executive order. And so when we had a couple of years ago, when we had our State Attorney General come out to this meeting and speak, he said, hey, where were the State Attorney Generals? That was totally illegal, at the time. It was justified based on the Depression saying that we have to take these actions, but I think that there is a general awareness that was not appropriate, not authorized by law, although it was rubber stamped by Congress at the time. And the point that we've made is that the Constitution gives monetary oversight and responsibility at both the state level and the federal level. So it's important that we educate the states, and that's why the work that was done in Wyoming, and in Arizona, in Utah, and in Oklahoma is so significant, so that we have this dialogue and we say, hey, wait a minute, we as a state recognize this is gold and silver. And so our Attorney General said here, meet them at the border, if they come across to confiscate the people's gold. And the other thing is, it was a different program back then in that the US dollar was denominated and directly linked to gold. So it was viewed as an integral part of the entire monetary system. Whereas today, what we have is really 5 different types of legal tender coin that are really different currencies. You got the Federal Reserve note, paper dollar, the gold dollar, the silver dollar, base coinage, the platinum dollar. They're all different. And we just need to recognize that they have different values, different purposes. And so the case really isn't there for confiscation. Mark?
Back to the issue, maybe hostile governments at various levels. So Valora is headquartered in, their production facilities are in Portland, Oregon, right? Is that okay? Maybe Oregon is the most friendly state government towards gold and silver. Is there any thought of establishing production facilities here in Utah? Adam?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
That was the best answer all night. That was the best answer. Okay, so can we have let's maybe just take a couple more questions. I think did you have a question? You're good? Okay. Phil's got a question, and then we'll just kind of wrap up here.
As a practical matter, we need to know what merchants currently are committed to accept goldbacks. And we need to understand the mechanism when you take a goldback into a merchant, how does he value that goldback?
Well, that is a great question. And let's have Jeremy answer that with, if you want to just go ahead and roll the tape.
Okay. So I just want to talk about Goldbacks really quick. I'm also one of the co-founders for Goldback, and we're excited about it because in a lot of ways we feel like it's the money that we wish the government made. I hear a lot of people, they say, well, we should go back to the gold standard. And, I'd argue, you really don't want to do that. The gold standard, if you're to be critical, failed because it was a promise that there's gold somewhere else. You have this note or a silver certificate for silver somewhere else, but don't you worry, you can get that when you want. And at the end of the day, you couldn't. Gold wasn't there, they canceled it. Maybe the gold was there, but you couldn't get it. Doesn't matter. It's like a bad relationship. You don't want to go back to the bad relationship. Mike Maloney, who, was one of the major, I guess, he inspired me anyway. His thesis is the worst thing we could do is to go back to the gold standard. It is the worst thing we could do because we got scammed and you're going to get scammed again. So what do you do? Like, what do you do? And we really feel like the Goldback is the answer to that. If you're to be even more critical on the gold standard, this isn't the criticism you'll hear often. Don't you think it's kind of weird to peg gold to silver and then silver to copper and have a 3-tier metal system for independent metals? I mean, that's kind of silly because you can't use gold for small things. I mean, 1,000 years ago, you couldn't use gold to buy a loaf of bread. You'd have to exchange your gold coin for silver coins and then exchange those silver coins for copper coins. And you have the government trying to maintain the balance forever between those metals that have all these industrial uses. That's not a good system. And as humanity hasn't had a better answer, but now Valorem has just got to the point this year where we can have a 1,000th ounce gold money in your hand that you can use, that you can have a 50. That's brand new. That has never, ever, ever, ever been done by people anywhere ever. And why would you want a gold standard when you can have all the gold in your hand? I mean, you could seal it in your wall. I mean, this is the most spendable gold in the entire world, and we're so excited to launch it in Utah, where we believe that this is legal tender. You know, all gold and silver here is legal tender under the law, or most of it. So we're super excited. If you want to use sound money, if you want to use money that's going to keep its value forever, we'd encourage you to do it. There are businesses that are signing up now to take Goldbacks as payment. Really, it's kind of one of those things where if you want to have a better money, you got to use it. You got to buy it. You got to support it. You know, if you've got gold or silver at home, you're waiting for doomsday. Don't wait for doomsday anymore. You can, if we theoretically signed up enough businesses to use Goldbacks, you could live in Utah and never use a dollar again. We've never had the choice to not use a dollar again. So I'm going to show you the commercial that we're going to be running statewide for Goldbacks starting next month. If you have a business and would like to accept Goldbacks, please let us know. We are going to be publishing a list early this week or early next week on existing businesses. What we found after contacting several hundred businesses is about 40% of small business owners will take Goldbacks as payment in Utah if you talk directly to the business owner. So that's pretty good. You can't spend them at Walmart, but you can at the farmer's market. So here's what we got.
No, I think it's muted. Okay, just one moment. Got it, okay. All right, so we got it. Cool.
Since Utah embraced gold as a nearly a decade ago, the challenge has been manufacturers. Goldback technology provides a cutting-edge solution. The Utah Goldback is 24 karat pure gold, protected with a durable polymer coating, suitable for circulation. Businesses throughout the state, like Dominion Insurance of Alpine, Utah, readily accept them for payment. Visit goldback.com to learn how you can get a free Goldback in the mail while supplies last. That's goldback.com.
Okay, so the question was, where can you spend it? We had a few vendors here today, and we've got Wes here of Dominion Insurance, and we were the stars of the commercial there. And so I want you to hear it from Wes, whether or not he's willing to accept gold and silver for your insurance premiums.
Well, that ad was actually filmed in my office. So yeah, we're going to accept Goldbacks. We've accepted fiat paper money our entire existence, and now we're excited to accept sound money with intrinsic value. We've been doing business throughout the United States, admitted surplus line basis, all 50 states, us and our predecessors for about 40 years, and we sell all lines of insurance. And we're pleased to accept Goldbacks and other foreign payments beyond standard US dollars. And I think we're going to be signing a document here shortly accordingly.
Yeah, in fact, since we've had signatures, let's have you sit down right here and sign the merchant agreement. Anybody else that's a merchant here wants to come up and sign? We've got agreements for you. So come on up. Okay, let's bring up those agreements.
And my remembering is that, like John Hancock long ago, I want to sign this large enough so the king can read it without his spectacles. Done.
Done. Excellent. Here we go. Here's number 2. If anybody else wants to join the party, we got a couple more.
I think you just like those live stream too.
So, yeah. Yes, question.
Appreciate these services being offered. Of course, as families go in Utah, food and fuel are the issues for us. What can we say anything about what's happening so we can get the commodities with these Goldbacks in Utah into our homes?
Yeah.
The things that we need to survive.
Yeah. Jeremy, where's Jeremy? Jeremy. Okay. So, well, Chris, so who, tell us about some food providers and fuel was the other one. I guess, yeah.
So we've got a lot of different businesses in the pipeline, all types of businesses. And like Jeremy was saying earlier, about 40% of small businesses will accept it if you're talking to the business owner. That includes growers of food, especially at farmers markets. So that's been our biggest thing for food. We've been talking to a couple of small local grocers, but nothing is solid yet, so I can't say any names or anything that way, but we're definitely working on that. And then gas is a very corporatized deal, and so everybody is owned by somebody bigger, but we're working on that as well. So that's probably going to be one of your harder ones is fuel, until somebody takes it.
Let's talk about that later.
Okay, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. But we've got people in the pipeline from home builders to construction. We've got therapists. We've got massage. What would you say? Like a massage therapy.
Law firm.
Law firms. We've got legal services. We've got estate planning. We have. We do have some. We have all types of insurance. Where's Wes? Yeah, they've got. Don't you have every type of insurance in all 50 states?
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much every type of insurance that you could want in all 50 states. Wes can hook you up. Medical is a big one, and we've been looking at that. There's a lot of alternative for sure. We've got some today that are that way. But like, if you're looking at a large hospital or something like that, we're probably a couple of steps away from there. Yeah.
If you go in and use a Goldback to buy something, what do you expect to change?
Perfect. So change with the Goldback is very easy. Usually the way that will work is that you will take your Goldback, or the person who's paying you if you're the business owner. They'll come forward with their phone outstretched and say, the Goldback website says that this is $260 today. Here's my Goldback, and the person who accepts it usually accepts it at its cash value or like a coupon through prepaid access. And so they'll enter it at the till. I got a coupon for $2.60. They'll make a change out of fiat. And so it's very simple that way.
Well, if you have a physical piece, they have to have a handshake with you. You
gotta repeat the question.
Sorry. What was?
If you give them a physical piece and you're gonna get change back, they do that digitally through the app or something?
No, so they can actually give you dollars and cents. They can give you nickels and dimes and pennies. Yeah, absolutely. So if everyone understood that, yeah. So to get change, correct. You could take change in Goldbacks or so say you had a 10 Goldback and you needed a couple of dollars and a few nickels and pennies to get your exact change, then you can do it that way. Yep. And so you can go either way. And also merchants who accept Goldbacks will probably have Goldbacks in the till that they will offer you as change even if you don't know what a goldback is, they'll say, would you like your change in fiat or in gold? And if it were me, I'd say, well, I want the gold. What is that? What is that? And so merchants are doing that now, where they're offering this change.
So in lieu of more questions, so for questions of Goldbacks, please find the Goldback guys. They're going to be back up, be able to answer your questions. As far as UPMA's has been able to do, we have added them to an account. So if anybody wants to deposit anything gold, silver, Goldbacks, they will have that available on their accounts to transact digitally. So any person or a merchant who wants to take it, they just need a UPMA account, and they can transact and trade with other members. And my vision is for UPMA is that we have a very convenient, easy app where we have deposits and we're our own bank. We have our own gold that is backed, and we can transact with anybody we want to through that app. And so making that easier. So one of the testing we just did back there, some of the board members did make a transaction. It's a little tricky and difficult because it's version 0.00001. And there's going to be a lot of upgrades and things needed to make it better, but it did work. We were able to do it. Two things to know. When you're making a transaction with other members, here's the first thing you need to know. Make sure you spell their name right, and it's all lowercase. This is case sensitive right now, which shouldn't be, but it is at the point. And it needs to be associated with the UPMA account. Otherwise, it just hangs and doesn't actually transfer. So it stays in an escrow, and I think it just reverts back after 30 days or less. So that's kind of how that works, and they have to accept it to receive it. So you have to accept it because that's what the escrow transaction does. You accept it. So you see the transaction, accept it, then it's transferred. So it's not a direct, immediate transfer until two parties agree, and it goes through the escrow program. Okay, so we want to wrap this up. So that wraps up all the fun stuff. So now a little bit more serious stuff. I'd like to have Larry, where are you? Come and read the specific thing that we need to read for Kevin so that we can talk about what his proposal is. So where is Kevin's proposal? Do you have that? Okay.
Yeah, so Kevin, if you want to come join us. So at the back table, we're setting up also a signatory opportunity for those who would like to sign on the treaty that was done at the beginning. So I think Ron Allen has those, just left maybe, but if you could set up that back table, then anybody who wants to be signing on that'd be great. Okay, we need Kevin. And this is the last item of business for me, right? And then we'll adjourn. So he went out that door, so someone could grab Kevin. So a number of Kevin's proposed bylaw changes actually have to do with the Goldback. So he wants to make it so that it will be easier under the bylaws for us to recognize and use the Goldback. I've expressed my view that the Goldback does qualify currently as Utah specie legal tender. But that is something that could be, we could have a ruling that could take it in a different direction. So I think that what Kevin's view is that we would like to have some flexibility in the bylaws to allow for a local currency that may not necessarily be a legal tender. And so Kevin, do you want to come join me up here? We'll just go through these. Sure. So we have exhibit number 1. Let me just read this off. He's suggesting that we, under Article 4, Section 2, the section entitled Functional Currencies, he's suggesting that we make the following change. The monetary holdings of UPMA, currently says, are pursuant to consist exclusively of specie legal tender as defined in Utah law, and has the reference. So he'd like to change that and say the monetary holdings of UPMA are pursuant to, and I guess get rid of the rest of this, because you couldn't say pursuant to specie legal tender, so it had to be pursuant to UCA.
To specie legal tender as defined.
Or pursuant to specie legal tender. Okay, so So any discussion on that item? I would say that if I were to make a suggestion, a friendly amendment, might say something like monetary holdings of UPMA are to be denominated in specie legal tender as defined, because let's see, denominated in specie legal tender. Yeah, or not denominated, paid to specie legal tender, because if you do it that way, you can have like the Goldback is paid to this dollar, right? So as this dollar changes in value, the Goldback changes in value. So I would, as a friendly amendment, suggest that we say paid to specie legal tender as defined. So that means that any legal tender that we create or want to support would have to be linked to gold or silver coin in some fashion, some sort of pay. Your thoughts on that?
And that's actually the most simple. And that's what makes them actually function.
This is the kind of conversation we
Yeah,
need to have.
yeah, so the, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the comment is that we
You
just
should
also.
hold a board meeting and figure out what to do.
Okay.
We lost the quorum, so you should just hold a board meeting and make decisions, and then we vote on it at some point in time. You can't do it tonight. I make that a motion.
How about this? How about we say that we form the committee? Okay, I'm gonna do this as a friendly motion, okay? How about we say we form the committee? The quorum actually was only necessary to start the meeting, so we could still vote on it. But how about we form the committee, and this body, the remaining members here, authorize the board to make bylaw changes in the interim that has to be approved by the members at the next meeting, so they can be adopted and followed between now and the next meeting. It's gonna be a year from now, so it's every year. So that would allow us to make the changes that you want to make, that we all want to see made, and actually have those go into force, and then have them ratified by the body, and anything that's not ratified will be rolled back.
This be done remotely. You remotely vote, in other words, you set up some kind of email situation where you will authorize the board to vote like next month.
So the question is, could we have a member vote next month? Under the existing bylaws, there's only one member meeting a year, and there's not a provision for special meetings. So I suppose we could make that vote right now, you know? So if you would like to have, so there's two ways that you can do this.
So does it have to be at a meeting? In other words, does it have to be called at a meeting?
It normally has to be at a meeting with members. So, okay, point of information, Joe Leva.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. General Counsel? So the reasons that Kevin and I are bringing these forward to everybody today is our bylaws right now are pretty strict in what UPMA can offer, and specifically state that we can offer gold dollars and we can offer silver dollars. We cannot offer, under our current bylaws, Goldbacks. And any deferral that we make today means we cannot service Goldbacks until we have a vote to change our bylaws to say that we can service Goldbacks. I think we had a general consensus in the meeting today that we're pretty jazzed about it. We've already started servicing as UPMA Goldbacks to a certain extent, so this is kind of a retroactive vote for us to say, yes, we want to be able to service Goldbacks, and to do that, we need to make some provisional changes in our bylaws that will allow us to do so. In working, how many emails did we send back and forth? About 1 million? We went back and forth in trying to, and we're both members of the board, to try and figure out what we could do to make this flexible enough to service Goldbacks and potential Wyoming backs, if that day ever comes. But that we could do that. And the language that we have here will do exactly what I think was being offered here. It changed this to say that we can offer serviceable specie tender as defined in a standing rule. And that standing rule can then be changed, amended, revoked by any meeting of the UPMA, which includes the general membership, and it also includes meetings of the board. So if all of a sudden we had a new Goldback for another state, we could theoretically add that in at a board meeting rather than waiting the entire year to bring that online.
Yes.
So that's what these bylaws are attempting to do. And with any bylaw, they're not perfect, but that was kind of the intent and is what Kevin and I were working on.
Thank you for that explanation of everything.
That really helped.
You know, we've kind of reviewed everything, and the concern that we have is that, these are pretty detailed. We totally agree with the goal, So if the body here simply wanted to say, we want to amend the bylaws such that Goldback can be, the Goldback in any similar currency can be an accepted medium of exchange by the UPMA, and we authorize the board to make the necessary amendments to that end, we could just pass that right now, and we've got 14 amendments here that go to that end, but we would just like to have a little more discussion. So I think something just that simple, just saying, hey, we authorize the board to make whatever changes to the bylaws are necessary to retroactively authorize Goldback or any similar currency
I would like to make a motion to that effect. Do we have a quorum?
Yeah, we have.
Quorum has started, so the meeting keeps going.
I move.
We do just what you said.
We have a motion.
Second.
I second.
We have a second. Any discussion on that, Joe?
So I know it's not my place because I'm not the chairman, but if I were, would I be correct in assuming that restating that motion would be that the general membership defers authority in the matter of the Goldback to the board of directors?
So
Would that be an
What's the
accurate?
bylaw? That's his motion, to make the bylaw changes.
And we have a second, any further discussion on that?
No.
Okay, and then I will say, one comment, I want to emphasize that these discussions, if you want to amend the motion to only make sure it's going towards legal tender, legal specie tender as any additional things that we're adding. We're not just adding anything that does not fit that description as part of
I
it.
think we'll just say the Goldback, because everybody understands what that is. So I think we just say to authorize the Goldback under the bylaws.
Right, but the motion was said, or any other thing like that.
Like the Goldback.
Like the Goldback.
Like the Goldback.
Okay. Okay. We okay with that motion? And second, Paul, all in favor?
Yes.
I just wanted to make one thing clear here. This is a general membership meeting. And as members, you have one chance a year to vote on things. So if you're giving up this right, are you concerned about that right not being available the next year, and the next year, and the next year? Because once you give this up, you might not get it back. And we need to specify if this is a one-time, because you see, I'm here to preserve the members' rights. And what you're doing is you're giving the board of directors more power than they usually have to solve a problem that is your right. So I just want to make that clear what we're doing.
Okay, another quick question.
Can we specify it's only regarding Goldback?
Yes, that's what the motion does.
Well, I don't think it's a good idea to not have the members have an opportunity to some kind of special.
Okay, so the comment is not having a special vote.
I don't mean that it has to be.
Yeah, I think it should be ratified at the end.
Okay, so and these will revert back without ratification. So I need an amendment to the original motion because there's some concerns brought. So the motion, okay, we have another comment?
What about these businesses that just signed on? What are we gonna do?
So the businesses that just signed that should still be able to,
Those are with Goldback.
those were Goldback, so it wouldn't affect it at all.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, I think.
I think, let's try this, and then so the motion I'm hearing is that we want to be able to allow Goldbacks to be
Those 6 exhibits
used.
concern the Goldback.
And so we need to reflect the bylaws to allow Goldbacks in there, which needs to be a specie legal tender. And that this is, the members are giving this one-time power, and we will act as if it is passed, but then it will only be ratified when we have a member meeting next year, and if not, then it doesn't pass. So is that the motion that anyone wants to bring forward? That's a little muddy.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, wait, can we
So
read that out?
Uh, Okay, let's see. Larry will probably do a better job at restating the motion than I.
Okay, Phil, if I understand your motion correctly, it is that the members of the UPMA authorize the board of directors to make appropriate changes to bylaws of the association to accommodate use of the Goldback by association members, and that those changes to the bylaws be subject to ratification by the members of the association at the next member meeting to occur next
But then
year.
we're not doing anything different. We're just not doing anything then. Because that motion is to not do anything. What he was saying is that we make the motion so that the board can settle. The motion was that so the board can have the power to settle all matters concerning the Goldback exhibits 1 through 6, and that the board settle this in our next meeting.
Right.
And then once those are settled, they're settled, and the members don't bring it up. It's not something that we bring up next summit.
Well, they can change the bylaws next summer if they want to, too.
Now, yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so if we say that it's not subject to ratification, but rather it does go into effect, the board, then the members of the association could roll it back. The members of the association today could say, we don't want to support US minted gold anymore. I mean, that's something that the members could do. So that's essentially a ratification, but without the rollback, essentially. So if the board puts this into place, it would be the operational rules of the association for the next year. And then if there were any perceived problems with that, then there could be a new resolution.
And this will be a one-time decision by the board of directors to make the adjustments to the bylaws, and members retain our rights to vote on the bylaws next year.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we have a question here in the back?
I think I can talk about that. Does that mean you'd use the Goldback before it was ratified?
So the question is, does that mean that you'd use the Goldback before it was ratified? I'll give you my view as general counsel for the UPMA. The Goldback is specie legal tender and is authorized under the current bylaws. But there are concerns that people have raised saying, well, what if it's not specie legal tender? Because the law of Utah says that the Goldback, or not the Goldback, it says that gold and silver bullion that is recognized as something that the state could approve as a legal tender is hereby a legal tender. And there's a court case called Thorne versus the Utah Tax Commission, where the Supreme Court of Utah said that when you use any kind of gold, they were talking about Kruger rands, and you're using it as money to buy goods and services, it's money. And so I believe that that makes the point that this really is specie legal tender. And what could happen in the next year is we might get to the point where the tax commission is actually accepting it for tax payments. If they do, then it's legal tender at that point. So, but the concern is that ultimately that might be reversed or might not be adopted by the powers that be, my particular view on it. And it's also a problem for people in Wyoming, where they don't have that law, or people in Nevada, or people in Arizona, where it's not. But again, our bylaws say if it's specie legal tender under the laws of Utah, that's actually how our bylaws are currently written. So I believe our bylaws are compliant right now, but concerns have been raised. And so this would be an opportunity to address those concerns, make any adjustments that may be necessary, and just go forward. And we can report to the members next year, this is what we did, or we'll report sooner than that. But then if there are concerns, members could raise them and we could make adjustments at that time, because we're not changing the right of the members to amend the bylaws. That has not been adjusted at all here. All we're saying is on this one issue, we're authorizing the board of directors to amend the bylaws as pertaining to the Goldback.
If necessary.
Call for the question.
Well, and one clarification of what Larry said, our bylaw, section 3 contributions talks about what kind of funds UPMA members can have, and it specifically says gold dollars and the other denominated in silver dollars. And further, it says both funds shall be managed. So we only have the ability to service gold dollars and silver dollars in both funds under our current bylaws. What we're trying to do is offer a third option at this point. So I don't disagree at all with the specie legal tender argument at all. It's just our bylaws pigeonhole us to 2 and only 2. And I would like to service Goldbacks.
Yes, and we want you to.
Got a question?
If that's what the current bylaw says, what would the new bylaw say? Potentially say.
Well, that's what he's written out.
That's what,
Yeah.
say it again.
Well, there's 14 different.
There's a lot. We need to vet the language because it's going to take a while to vet it, because when we look through, we realize that there's going to be a lot of applications and it needs to be looked at before we can. So we can either wait till next year to ratify it, and then we don't really accept Goldbacks the way that we really want to, or we can do that by giving the authorization
So let me
forward.
restate it. Okay, so
Here's the simple, Phil, you correct me if I'm wrong, okay? The members of UPMA hereby authorize UPMA Board of Directors to adopt bylaws to facilitate the use of Goldbacks by UPMA members.
This one time.
One time.
So moved till next year.
We have the list of members that have been there, so.
Yeah, so then that could be another motion if you want to make that motion. Yeah. You could make that, yes. You could make that motion. You could call for a special meeting to ratify what the board is doing, or you could just authorize the board. So.
Is there a vote of people here? Sure. Number of people here, number of people who vote.
So we started the meeting with a requisite quorum, so it's just be whoever's left votes for it.
The majority of the members.
It's of the people who vote.
It's a number of people who vote, yeah. So did you want to amend that, or are you okay with? Okay. So that's the motion, and Phil, that's your motion? Okay, that's the motion, and the second is Mark.
Let's restate.
Okay, so the motion is, one last time, okay. It is moved by Phil Snellgrove that the UPMA members authorize the board of directors to make any necessary changes to the bylaws of the association to facilitate the holding and use of the Goldback by UPMA members.
subject to review or ratification.
No, that wasn't the motion.
Membership could always amend, undo it later, right?
The members can undo it later. Okay.
So moved.
So moved, so that's the motion. And
With
then
the proviso that it was the one-time authorization.
a one-time authorization. Okay, so that would be, okay. Mark Vogler seconds that. Anybody want to call the question? Okay, Mark Vogler calls the question.
Okay, so everybody who approves the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
That's pretty good.
Seeing none, the motion passes.
So now you can have a motion to adjourn.
Okay, so we have another,
I was just pointing out that the correct wording was documented by video.
yes, it was. With the addition to, this is a one-time thing. So do we have any other motions
Aside from
aside from the motion to adjourn? We have a motion to adjourn.
I have a small question, and that is related to the bylaw adjustments. And that is, other than Goldbacks, if there were
And anything else? that
Bitcoin or
was
other forms of-
specific, legal species tender, that would be reserved for another meeting. That would not, the Goldback is the only thing on this schedule.
That's
correct. Okay.
if there are Goldbacks for other states, can they be added over this next year with the new verbiage you're doing in the bylaws?
Yeah, no, the Goldback that's just generic nationwide.
Not specific to.
It's not specific to you. There's the
Good.
Utah Goldback.
Right.
There could be the Wyoming Goldback.
Good.
There could be the Nevada Goldback.
Yeah. Now, I'll just state that if there's other gold species legal tender out there that comes in addition to it, that's, it's the only Goldbacks. And I don't necessarily like calling out one specific product, but in this case, if everybody has agreed to it, it's agreed to. So, do we have any other motions?
I move to adjourn.
We have a move to adjourn. Second, all in favor? All opposed?
Let's do it.
Okay, adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for coming.
Now, for those of you that are board members, we've got another.
Am I correct in
We have some,
thinking that if I do this, I can only get.
All right, guys, thank you.
$5,000?
Will the board meeting be held here?
Yes. And there's.
I
gotta go to my room, I'll be right back.
Because the thing is, if someone wanted to.
Try and shorten things up a little bit.
Oh, my goodness.
So the idea is we want to encourage people to actually, spend them and use them as a currency.
Well, I think that's good, which is a very small business.
Yeah.
Like you see what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then there was another.
No, that's fine. I mean, we want to, hear.
I think that's, I love the idea, and I understand why you want to be careful. Now, there are just things about the remedies, mediation, things like this. I don't think I can make a decision this far, because it's complicated.
I'm happy to
It's not that.
answer any questions. So I do this card. Okay, this is a quencher card, but if you